May I have your attention, please? The Seoul Design Award Conference will start at 2 p.m. Korea time. Please check your connection status online. Simultaneous interpretation is being provided throughout the event. For those who are joining us online, please check the interpretation channel, Korean or English, and check your sound in advance. 서울 디자인 어워드 컨퍼런스가 진행되는 동안
During
깜짝
the
실시간
Seoul
이벤트
Design Award Conference, we have a special event for the participants who are staying with us until the end of the session. We will give the opportunity.
With the COVID-19 quarantine guidelines to ensure safety. Thank you. Changing daily lives, people who make changes through design. Welcome back to Seoul Design Award Conference. My name is Ki Kim, and I'll be your host for this event. It is day 2, and so many of us here are today online with us as just like day 1, and we appreciate your kind presence here today. Hopefully you can get much out of this whole Design Award Conference. Today, we'll share our concerns about our precious daily lives and how we can better our lives through design and what we can do to reach those answers. Then once again, let us start the second day of Seoul Design Award Conference for a sustainable daily life. First, there will be a keynote speech, and he is the master of social innovation design. He knows the power of design can change our society. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the world-renowned scholar, Dr. Ezio Manzini, the president of the CES Network. Here it is.
Good morning to everybody. I'm really happy to be here with you to share my thoughts about design and sustainability. The organizer kindly asked me to talk about sustainability achieved through design. And my proposal is to start from here to arrive to what is for me the main design guideline if we want to move towards sustainability, that is designing for proximity and care. And I hope in my presentation to make clear what is the meaning of this guideline. I like to start with this picture. What we see in this picture, we see two people, a man and a woman. One is sitting, the other is looking around with the face that says what we do. And but basically they don't do anything. And outside from the window, we see that everything is burning. And of course, this is a real picture, but it's a kind of metaphor of our position, our human being position on the planet. Nowadays, everybody knows that our house is on fire. It means that all our planet is in a very dramatic condition, but we don't know exactly what to do, or we don't want to do what we should do. The issue is that we are facing a multiple crisis. Nowadays, it's crystal clear that we are already in the middle of an environmental catastrophe. We see the signals of social crisis, and nowadays we have also the war, and how we can overcome this condition. The problem is that when we try to think to the future, there are different competing scenarios, and we have to choose which one is the one that we want to follow. So let's stop for one moment on this scenario. As designer, consciously or unconsciously, we have to refer to a vision of the future, because design is by definition to imagine something that is not already there. And in the moment in which we make this proposal has to be in some way coherent with a certain idea. So which are the scenarios that in my view are competing? The mainstream one, the one that is still alive, is the one of considering our Earth as a mine and a landfill, something that is up to our disposal. And in this image, we, the human being, consider ourselves as a master of the planet. We can do whatever we want because it's our planet. The second scenario that came later is we recognize that there are some limits, and we imagine our planet as a spaceship. And the spaceship is a machine that can be driven, repaired, improved. And we human beings are the crew and the passengers of this spaceship. The third scenario is the scenario in which we see the Earth as a living entity, and we human beings interact with it. More than that, we human beings are not separate from nature. We are part of the same nature. These three scenarios, of course, are competing because the perspective that they ask us to implement are very diverse, and therefore they have a very different design implication. The first one, the one in which we're considering the Earth as a mine and landfill, sincerely should not be a scenario anymore, because it's crystal clear that the Earth cannot be considered as a kind of unlimited mine and landfill. And therefore, we have all recognized, as I said before, that our house is burning, that there are some limits, and we are clashing against these limits. And therefore, something has to be done to change. But nevertheless, it happens that for several reasons, we continue with the business as usual. And we continue because we said, well, in this moment, we have a crisis. So let's now fix the crisis. And afterward, we will think what we will do for overcome these problems. But this is really a very contradictory position, because the crisis in which we are is generated exactly by this same model, by the fact that we do not recognize the limits of our planet. So there is no solution to all the crises that we are facing, the environmental, the social, the political crisis, if in some way we don't take seriously the fact that our planet has limits. At a certain point, already several decades ago, a new idea emerged. And this idea used a metaphor. Let's consider our planet as a spaceship. And we recognize that the resources in this spaceship are limited. So we recognize the limits of the planet. But the image that we have of this, of our planet and ourselves in it is, again, a kind of machine. And if it is a machine, this means that the philosophical approach that we have toward our planet is mechanistic. So we think that at the end of the day, we can consider our planet as a machine. And it's also anthropocentric. It means this machine, this spaceship, has some pilots and some crew. And we are the pilot of the crew of this spaceship. And we have a technical capability to fix it if it is broke. And the vision is that if the planet is a kind of machine, the machine can be repaired and improved. The third vision is a vision that was there since a long time, but appeared as very convincing after the pandemic, after the COVID, because we discovered that we was not capable to control this planet. We discovered that it was not a machine that we can fix. We discovered that there is an intrinsic complexity in the reality in which we are and in which we are part. And therefore, we had to assume a non-anthropocentric view of our condition in this earth. So it means that we are not at the center of the overall system. We are one of the elements that are part of this very complex reality. And we started to see that the overall planet is a kind of very large, complex living organism, and we are part of it. And this organism, as all the living organisms, can be sick. And now it is sick. And what you have to do is not to repair it, but to try to heal it. So for me, what comes for the designers is to understand the difference in between considering ourselves as a kind of mechanical people that is trying to fix a machine, or to be human being and part of a big, large organic system, and we have to try all together to heal it. So when we talk about sustainability achieved through design, we have to be very modest. It's not that we can redesign the world as we could imagine to design a machine, but we have to operate internally to this world to try to heal this organism that is very sick, and is sick mainly because us. So I will give two main, let's call it design guideline that emerge from the observation of the reality since several decades at this moment. The first basic observation, beyond discovering that there are limits and we have to operate inside the limits of the planet, is that it's about fragility and resilience. So we discovered that when we have a catastrophic event, these catastrophic events show us that the large hierarchical systems are fragile. And when they are stressed beyond the limit, they break down. And therefore, we know that to create a less fragile system, we have to move from this vertical or hierarchical system toward horizontal systems that are capable to sustain themselves also when they are stressed. So this is this idea of having horizontal distributed system is the way to create a system that has the hope to be capable to face the difficulties of today and the future. In other words, to be resilient. And therefore, our keyword should be to move toward a distributed system, to try to make this kind of organization the main organization of our socio-technical systems. What are the distributed systems? The distributed systems are networks built on a variety of small-scale interconnected units. This is not a kind of remembering or being homesick of the past. It's not going back to the pre-industrial, pre-globalized system, non-connected society. It's exactly the opposite. Is to recognize that the new technological system could permit to create a new, very advanced, hyper-connected system in which we spread our activity everywhere in this way in which we could summarize creating small, local, open, and connected subsystems. And we see that there is a possibility today to redesign our energy system toward a local and connected energy system. But we have also started to rethink the food system and to imagine resilient food systems that are much more based on local and connected system with a kind of sovereignty about food. But we can also imagine to redistribute the system to the public services to bring them nearer to the people and to create a more contact in between who is delivering the service and who is using the services. And the same production can be, maybe not everything, but can be reimagined to be much more local and connected using the new technologies. So, as I said before, the design guidelines for us is to design artifacts to promote a systemic resilience, bringing production and services near to the final users. So, at the end of the day, this guideline brings us to think about what does it mean to design for a new proximity. In some way, we have used until now all the technology to distance people, to distance functions, to create a world about built on the distance, both the physical and the relational distance in between the people. And now we should do the vice versa, to use the technology to bring people closer, to be people closer to the resources, closer to the production sites. And there is a lot to design. We have totally redesigned not only the products, but the overall system to imagine how we can design for proximity. And now I will move to the second guideline that is complementary to the first one. We know that we are in a multiple crisis, and these multiple crises show us that the individualistic and competitive way of being that has been proposed and became dominant worldwide in this period is generating large part of the catastrophe in which we are. And this idea that the society is basically done by individual competitive people has to be overcome. And we have to imagine a new way of helping people to collaborate, to be collaborative, and to be caring for what they have around. And if we are not capable to think in this collaborative and caring way, if we are not capable to also start to behave in this way, in my view and the view of many people as me, there is no possibility to overcome the crisis. But how can we change this attitude that is really very complicated and very complex? So luckily, looking around us in the last decades, we have seen the signals of something that is changing in this dimension, in this direction. And this is what we call normally the social innovation. So the social innovation that we see around us give us a vision that this possible change from individualistic to collaborative, from non-caring toward caring, is possible. And the social innovation, therefore, is, for me, the kind of light at the end of the tunnel. So it says and it shows practically that people can also behave in a different way. As a designer, we should have the capability to recognize this kind of social prototypes of different way of being and to transform them in something that can last in time and spread toward a larger part of the population. When we talk about social innovation, we talk about something that started everywhere in the world, not with the same intensity, but practically everywhere in the world at the beginning of this century. And what we've seen people that instead of thinking to live in the individual people in its own small box, but to live in a more collaborative way, sharing something, putting something together. Or we can see new kind of services in which instead of thinking of welfare, they consider only individual isolated people, consider people as communities. We can see, as I said before, a collaborative food network in which there are new kind of relationships in between people and in the city and people in the countryside. We have also seen with the Fab Lab and the Maker movement, new way of collaborate in working and creating new working communities. And all this has been observed, and many people, as for instance myself, we work at looking at them mainly as a problem solver. Each one of this group was trying to solve some problem for themselves and from the communities and in some way for the society. But now I want to underline the fact that they are not only problem solvers, but they have also been sense makers. So they generated a new idea of the possibility of what is to be considered well-being. And they propose an idea of well-being that is mainly based on collaboration and care. And care is, for me, the very basic word to intend what is the attitude that will permit us to face the crisis in which we are. And social innovation said that we can go back to be capable to have a care for each other, to have a care for a work, a well-done work, to have a care for our neighborhoods, to have a care for our environment. And therefore, this is our second design guideline, to design artifacts, to make collaboration and care possible and probable. And therefore, we can summarize in design for care. So the conclusion is that our guideline to move towards sustainability, to be active, positive agent in the transition in this direction, is to design for proximity and care. Proximity between people and care for the web of life on which we are part. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ezio Manzini, for your keynote speech. There was a very impressive design guidelines, and also we could see the correlations between the sustainability and how design can sustain with our lives. I think it would be a great idea to have a more in-depth conversation with many people about sustainability achieved by or through design that you've discussed in your keynote speech. And here is our Q&A session, and the Q&A session will be led by Mr. Jung-tae Kim, the representative of MYSC, as the moderator.
네, 안녕하세요. 모더레이션 이끌게
Hello.
되는
I will
김정태라고
serve
합니다.
as a
저희는
moderator.
사회혁신
My name is Kim
컨설팅
Jong-tae,
임팩트
and
투자를 하고
I'm
있는데요.
making investment in social impact and social innovation. And in our company, in order to address the impact issue and social issues, we are referring to the topic you mentioned in the presentation. As you know, Professor Echio Mangini also published a book which includes the content that everyone designs in the society. And we also refers the book in our company. And you mentioned that why design is very important in your presentation. Actually, we met once in Beijing. We were on the same stage. And at that time, we also talked how we need to view the social innovation. So once again, thank you very much for your insight. And even though you are not in the venue in person, but I would like to ask you three questions, and that will be for the audiences. Hello, Professor.
Hello. Hello. Nice to be here digitally.
Yes, you're right. And I'm a reader in your book. And let me ask you a question. So this is the first question. Recently, design became very common. In the past, design was one of the professional areas, but nowadays design is very common in our society. So when we approach it to design, we need to understand why design is important. So how should we talk about this? And how can we explain this to other people?
Well, thank you for this question that is very basic for me. Now, when we talk about design, we can talk about design in two ways. One way is to consider that design is a human capability. So in some way, everybody is capable to sing, or everybody has a kind of creativity. Everybody has the capability to design something. That means to see that you want to change something, and you organize what you have to get some result. And therefore, this is a way to talk about design. Design when everybody has this capability to do it. And the second way to talk about design is when we have professional people. So it means somebody that has been trained to develop projects and have some special capabilities on this. So when we talk about the future of design, we have to consider these two levels. So why today is so important to consider the two levels? Because the first one, the one that everybody designs, was not so frequent in the past. But we have to use this capability when it's really necessary. So normally in our life, we tend to do what we have always done. So we don't need to design several parts of our life. But when everything changes, and changes so fast, we see that it's impossible to simply do as you have always done, because it do not work, because the context is changed. And therefore, in some way, you have to design. And this is valuable for the single individual, and this is a very philosophical, different way of being in our life, but also for the organizations, and also for entities as a city. A city has to redesign itself continuously. So this is why we are now having this large discussion about design. But if everybody designs, given that to design is not simple, it could be useful to have some expert that help. And therefore, this is the role. The core role of the professional designer is to enter in larger co-design processes and help, bringing not only their own specific tools, but also their own specific culture and creative capabilities. So this is, in my view, why it's so important both the level of design. So especially now that we have, as has been said also in my presentation, to face this transition towards sustainability. Transition means, again, to change the way in which we do. So everybody in some way have to redesign the way in which they exist, and the designer can help in this very complex process.
네, 첫 번째 질문에 정말 좋은 인사이트 주셔서
Thank you
너무
very much
감사드립니다.
for that
우리가
insightful
당면한
answer.
지속 가능성 이슈는 모두의
So
이슈이기
sustainability
때문에
is an issue for
특정한
everyone.
역할을 하는 분들만이 참여하는 것이
So
아니라
it's
우리
not,
각자 가지고
it
있는
does not just
디자인
involve the
capability,
participation
활용하는 게
of people
중요하다고
with
말씀하셨고요.
specific
또
capabilities,
전문적인
but other
디자인을
people
전공하신
as well.
분들은 그런 프로세스를
And
잘
professional
진행해 줄수 있기
designers
때문에
can be of
앞으로는
help
디자인
in
영역
that
부분이 더
process.
중요할 거라고 보고 있습니다.
And so going forward, a
또 그
design-oriented
발표에서
approach
디자인
will
for
be
proximity,
even more
디자인 for
important.
care라는
And
부분들을
design for care
강조하셨고요.
and design for
저는
proximity
특별하게
was
두 번째
emphasized
디자인
in
for
your
care라는
presentation.
부분이 굉장히
And I
흥미로웠습니다.
was very
최근에
interested in design
파타고니아
for
창업자
care.
이본
So
시나드가
recently,
자신이
the founder
일본과
of Patagonia,
거대한
Yvon
기업을
Chouinard,
환경 보호
donated
단체에게
Patagonia to a
기부하면서 이런
non-profit
이야기를
environmental
했다고 하는데요.
organization
이제부터
and
우리의
said,
유일한 주주는
Earth
바로
is now
Earth,
our only
지구가 우리의
shareholder.
유일한 주주다라고 얘기를 했습니다. 어떻게 보면 이런 부분들이
So
그런 개념들이
perhaps
적용된 사례라고 볼 수 있는데요.
this is what put your concept into action. It's a great example. And you, in your presentation, you refer to the worldview as a large living entity, the Earth as a large living entity. And what is needed to promote this realization in our society, in your view?
Well, as it's always said, the change is a really deep, paradigmatic change. So it's not one single action that represents this kind of very holistic transformation that has to happen at a certain point. So you started quoting Patagonia, that I know a little bit, not so well. I've not studied it in detail, but I know enough. And the example, the case that they donated to the NGO is a very good thing, and I really appreciate it. But per se, this is not enough to say that it is a company that is really moving in following, if I use what I presented before, my guidelines, the guidelines that I proposed, so that is moving toward considering themselves as a part of a living entity and at the same time to do it with care. But it's possible that they do it. So for what I know, I think that they are making some good step in that direction. So I'm not saying that they are not doing that. I only say that it's not in some way enough, the philanthropic choice to donate it, to say that they are in the good direction. For me to see, to discuss even how we are going in the good direction, it has to be kept in account that we are not consider one single entity per se. So the Patagonia is a company per se, or the products of Patagonia per se, but to consider them in the interaction with other things. So the key word is ecosystemic approach. And the ecosystemic approach is not something that can be seen analyzing one by one the different elements, but looking to the interaction in between different elements. So given that you use this example of Patagonia, we can remain in a company that produces mainly clothes. So it depends from the way in which it's produced, the way in which the cotton has been cultivated. If in that place there was a real ecosystem has been preserved, and now we know that it's possible in agriculture to move toward the agroecology. That means the capability to put together the notions about producing some food or some raw material with the ecological ideas. And afterward, the way in which it has been transported. So probably if it has been transported for a very long distance, this is not good. So it should be reduced at the distance from the way in which you produce and the way in which you consume. But afterward, you arrive to the product, how it has been produced. And the production can be done inside systems that are called industrial ecosystems. That means to put together different industry to try to complement one with the other one, using the waste of one as a raw material for the other one, and creating what is called the circular economy. Maybe, I'm sure that they did it something like this. It has to be seen in which way. And finally, because it's not finished, they are producing products. So it's about the quality of the product per se. And the quality of the product per se means how much these products last in time, how much this product can be repaired, how much they propose to their own client to enter in a kind of relationship with the product. That could be a relationship of care. So how the company can help themselves and the client to move outside the kind of culture of overconsumption of the disposable goods. So as you see, there are so many different elements that have to go together that can be approached. So maybe a company starts more from one side, another company from another side, and the idea is to have clear where you want to go and to try to make the moves that are possible to be done step by step and to move in that direction.
네, 교수님 두 번째 질문에 대해서
Professor, you mentioned the ecosystem, how we can take care of the ecosystem. Thank you very much for your insight, and for the sake of time, this will be the last time. Sustainability is in the capital market referred as ESG, environment, social, and governance. And this was first coined in 2004 World Bank report. And the title of the report was Who Cares Wins. So in your presentation, you mentioned many topics, and it is related to this World Bank report and Patagonia case. So from the perspective of ESG, if there is any organization or company who are doing ESG, please let us know.
Yes and not. I have to start where I stopped. The final goal is very far away. It's very complicated. So we have to try to achieve it, moving in different steps from different point of view, converging. And for me, first of all, we have not to consider the individual products, but we have to consider the system in which they enter and the kind of interactions that happen. So you started in this question talking about referring to my issue about care. So care means an attitude that is very far away from the mainstream in the contemporary society, because it asks for attention, it asks for time, and it asks for physical presence. So if we think that we want to move in the direction of a sustainable society, it has to be a society based on care. And to base our activities on care, you have to change a lot of our mentality and the way to do it. It is clearer if we talk about the services, and design has also to do with services. You mainly refer to products, but in my view, the more and more of the activity of the design of the future will be related to services. So the services can be industrialized in some way, and they are without care, or you can try to have a touch point where there's a service happen in which you have a care interactions. To do it, you have to rebuild the service at the scale of the locality, of the proximity, having and giving to the service deliverer the time to do it. And we have cases in which, at least I know better Europe, this kind of transformation of the service, this transformation of the idea of welfare is ongoing, and we talk about community-based welfare. So a welfare that is based on rebuilding the community. And I know example in Italy, for instance, in some cities in Italy, or in Barcelona, where they have reorganized the system of care to be more local and more near to the people. If we move toward agriculture, of course, if you put together the need to produce some food with some ecological ideas, so you have the agroecology, it needs care, because you cannot do it as a monological production. It has to be a mixture of different productions. So this asks for care. And this is quite clear. Now, if we move to the industrial products, of course, it's not so obvious to say what does it mean to have care in industrial products, but I mean we should reintroduce some element of craftsmanship, because craftsmanship was exactly the kind of work that asked for attention and for being there and for some time. And now, of course, there is a clash in between the introduction of this attitude that are similar to what was up in the past, the craftsmanship toward what we imagine to be the industry today. But I think that it's an effort that we have to do. And in some way, in many ways, I think that design can help, because there is a totally redesigning, not only of the final products, but also of the process.
네, 교수님 귀한 답변 감사드립니다. 디자인이 만드는 지속
Thank you very much for your answer. Eventually, we need to have the care that is an attitude, and we need to also spend time together. So, in session 3, we will look at the specific cases and continue the dialogue. I hope we can see you once again. And as you mentioned, everyone designs. So, we will spread the philosophy in Korea furthermore. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you to you.
Yes, once again, I would like to thank Dr. Ezio Manzini again for his sincere answers to the Q&A. We could see the sustainability and how it is contained by design, and the alarming keynote. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Kim for outstanding performance as a moderator. Hopefully, this session, the keynote, could have helped you, all of you here who are watching this online. And now we'll take a short break. Then it'll be followed by session number 3. And finally, we'll be announcing the launch of Seoul Design Award 2023, so please stay tuned. Welcome back. Now it's time for the third session of Seoul Design Award Conference, so we'll get started. We'd like to invite experts to share their stories on the themes Coexisting Design, Sustainable World. The session number 3 will also be moderated by Mr. Chung Tae-kim, the representative of MYSC, producer at KBS Korea Broadcasting Station, Ms. Karam Kim, founder of Basurama, Mr. Alberto Nanclair Daviga, the representative, paw in hand, Mr. Hwan Lee. So please come to the stage. Then now I'll officially hand over the floor to Chung Tae-kim, who will be the moderator for this session number 3. And here it is.
네, 안녕하세요. 세션
Hello
세 번째
everyone.
세션.
This is session number 3. We'll begin the session number 3. Previously, we had a keynote speech from NGO Manzini, and he talked about the sustainability achieved through design. And now we will look at the specific cases and have a discussion. We have 2 panelists in person, and we also have 1 panelist online. Hello, Alberto.
Thank you for being with us.
Hello, what's up?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. So welcome
I
to
can-
us. Looking forward to
I can hear you.
lively discussions. 네, 잠시 후에 저희 같이 한번 이야기 나눠보도록
Soon
할게요.
we'll
Hello.
have a discussion together.
자, 또 우리 환경 스페셜로 많이 아실 텐데요.
And we have producer Karam Kim of KBS Environment Special. Please give her a big round of applause.
알베르토에게도 여러분 큰 박수
And please
부탁드립니다.
welcome Mr. Alberto with a big round of applause.
또 세 번째 발표 드릴 텐데요.
And
포인
we
핸드
also have the third
모셨습니다.
speaker, Mr. Lee Hwan-hee from Po in Hand.
자, 그렇다면 디자인이란 관점이 굉장히 폭넓게 해석이
So
되고
design
있잖아요.
can be interpreted in various ways, and it is not just a profession. It can be seen as a problem-solving skill. So we would like to look at 3 different perspectives,
토의를 진행해 보도록
and
하겠습니다.
we'll also have a
먼저
panel
문제
discussion.
인식이라는 관점에서 디자인이
First,
어떻게
as
적용되는지
issue awareness, we will
먼저
look at the
김가람
design,
PD님
how it is
모시고
applied.
그것도 함부로 할
The
것은
first
없다.
presenter
관점에서
is
한번 이야기
producer
들어보겠습니다.
Karam Kim, and the title is Nowhere You Are Allowed to Behave Carelessly on Earth.
걸어서 세계 속으로를 만들었었고
I'm a
지금은
producer
환경 스페셜에서
of the program Walking into the World, and currently I'm working for the program called the Environment Special. And this is educational and cultural program. So when I go to the scene to make this program, there are not many people who are welcoming me because they think that I'm not a person who are good for the promotion of the region. But there are some people who are welcoming me, like these people. When I go to the rural area or the demonstration scene, they are waiting for me. They say that the cement factory will be built in our village. Usually we have good air condition and the water is really clean, and we don't want to have the incinerator in our village. And I am working in the producer for the educational programs. And when I introduce many villages, usually I introduce these villages saying that these villages have good water and clean air. And it made me think, if we cannot build the incinerator in the village with clean air and clean water, should we build it in the village where water is not that clean and air condition is bad? Is there any place where originally the water is dirty? And if our village is very clean, then we need to ask whether another village is burning the trash on behalf of us. My office is in Yeouido area, so there is no chance to look at the things that are very dirty, because when I commute to my office, the roads are already cleaned and always the trash bin is emptied, even though I don't know who cleaned the trash bin. So we throw out the trash, whether it is food waste or our used clothes. We always think that we don't have to think about that. That is some kind of power for the people living in the urban area. And when I made another program called The Secret of Life, Old, Sick, and Death. And this is a village in the rural area. It is very clean and many people go there after their retirement. But within this 2-kilometer radius, there are 3 incinerators and they burn 500 kilograms of waste in this area. It is not from this village, rather these trashes are coming from the urban area. So as you can see in this picture, we cannot see this kind of fume in the urban area. The fume is in pink, and the smoke is always coming out of the chimney. So the villagers are suffering from the cough and skin irritation. And in the village, I met an old person in a pavilion, and we finished the interview, and as off the record, asked him, what kind of support do you need, and how can we help this village? And that old man showed me a newspaper. And usually we do not have the newspaper, but in the rural area we can see a newspaper. And he told me, when you go to Seoul, you can meet many elites and smart people. So please tell them, don't wrap the newspaper with vinyl. It is not rainy, however, every day they are using this plastic bag to cover the newspaper. And they are creating the trash. So this trash will be burned in our village, and we are taking this fume. So this is the job I do. I'm not an activist. However, I try to spread the voice of the voiceless. And I hope people can learn about this and realize that even in this 21st century, these things are taking place. That's why I'm creating my program. Usually, I go to the area where people think it is very dirty. They are serving as a factory, or they are serving as a restroom of the society. And people point out these villages saying that they are dirty places. And last year, in our environment special, we created another series, There is No Earth. And this is the first episode, There is No Earth for Clothes. Let me introduce the series briefly. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, I purged my closet. And I was curious when I put out the used clothes. I saw the t-shirt that was created several years ago, and it was a kind of uniform for the producers and workers in the broadcasting company. And I thought that nobody wants to wear that. Then, where these clothes will go? Will they be buried in the landfill? And on Instagram feed, I saw a picture of a mountain of clothes. And these cows are looking for their feed
이 사진은
on the
아프리카
closed
가나에서
mountain.
촬영된
And this
사진이고요.
photo was taken
사진을
in
촬영한
Ghana,
가나의
Africa.
환경운동가에게
And the
인스타그램
environmental
DM을 보내고 줌
activist
미팅을
took this
해서
picture.
물어봤어요.
So I
거기
sent
혹시
a direct
한국
message
옷도 갔나요?
and we had a
물어봤더니
meeting on Zoom.
한국 옷은 다
And
눈에
I
띈다는
asked
거예요.
whether Korean clothes are there. And it is very noticeable because it is packaged in a yellow bag and on the surface it says made in Korea. So we sent the team to cover this story and I believe many people remember this. As you can see, the cow should be on the mountain. However, in the closed mountain, including the clothes we throw away, we can see this cow here. And the cow is chewing the fiber. So we usually think that these things are happening in the developing countries. And this is another episode of my series. There is no earth that can be eaten and thrown away. And I imagined when the foods are not sold in the supermarket, I thought that it will not be thrown away. But my expectation was correct. Many packaged food have been thrown away. And this is the photos of Copenhagen, Denmark, which is known as a sustainable city. And one environmental activist spent 3 years and scavenged the trash bins in the city. As you can see, there are organic meats, vegetable, dairy food, and banana bread, and yogurt that has not been expired. But they were thrown away, even though the expiration date has not been passed. Because new products will come in, so these foods will be thrown away and they will be sent to incinerators. So they will burn these foods. In order to create these meat-processed food, Amazon forest will be cut down and more cows will be killed. And I covered these stories and many people asked me, while making this program, what was the most shocking scene and what was the most memorable scene? But I cannot pick out one thing because when I make this program, I didn't expect that this is taking place. As a producer, I was very surprised because there are so many things to cover, but at the same time, I was very perplexed because I didn't expect this will be happening. In order to get the palm oil, people burn the forest in Indonesia. And as you can see, there is mountains of crows, and the river is filled with the shoes thrown away. And this is ocean, and they don't have the money to install the purifier, so people just throw away the waste. So the river is turning into black, and the plastic bottles are filled with the river. So when I make this program, I wanted to ask questions. What do you think when you look at these photos? Maybe there are some people asking, do they have government? They even think about this problem, and I'm very fortunate that I'm not living there. How they can live like that? So I believe Many people think like this,
묻고 싶었어요.
but I wanted to ask a
이런
question.
사람들의 노동력을 최저가로
With
사서
this program,
이렇게
we are
최저가로
purchasing the
강과
labor
오염을
at
오염시켜서
low cost,
이들을
and we are
먹고 풍요를
polluting
누리는 건
the river
누구일까요?
and water, and who
저렇게
will
오염 정화 장치를
become rich?
만들 수 없을 만큼 최저의 가격으로 물건을 발주하고
We spend so little money
어린 소녀들이 재봉틀을
to
주말에도 계속
make the
돌려야 할 만큼
products,
그런
and we are
속도로
polluting
물건을
this nature,
납품하도록 주문하고
and we make
그리고
older
합쳐놓고
so
기분
that they
전환을
need
옷을
to
산
make
다음에
the products
이건
continuously.
똑똑한 소비였어
And after
하고
one
버린 다음에
season, we
내년에
just
또
throw
비슷한
away
거를
the
그렇게
product,
사고 버리는 걸
and in the
반복하는
next
것은
season,
그걸
we
풍요라고 생각하고
purchase
누리는
another
누구였을까요?
T-shirt. So who
그런
enjoyed the
생각을
benefit
계속
of
하면서
this
프로그램을
pollution?
만들었습니다.
That's how
제가
I
이
created this
프로그램을
program.
만들면서 또 하나 가슴에
While
항상
making this
되뇌었던
program,
거는
I
제가 보여주는 이런
always
참혹한
think
현실들이
that these
그냥
horrible
가난한
scenes
나라가 늘 그렇듯 지저분하게 사는 해외 토픽에
can be seen in
나오는
the
전화를 어떻게
developing countries,
라고 혀를
and
끌끌 차고 마는
we
그런
usually
화면이
pity
되진 않길
them.
바랐어요.
But I
왜냐하면
don't want
이런
people
모습은
to
사실
do like
우리의
that,
별로 오래되지 않은
because
과거이기도 하거든요.
only several years ago we were like them in the
안양천이
1970s.
시커매지도록
The
우리나라
Anyangcheon
공장을 돌려야
stream
그때는 오염
was in
산업을
black
그대로
because
받아들여야
there were
했어요.
so many
우리나라가
pollutions,
가난한 믿음이죠.
and Korea was
그때는
so
경도가
poor, so
무너질
we
걸 알면서도
had no
청년
choice but
강도들이
accepting
털을
that.
캐러 들어가고
And
분진을 마셔가면서
miners
그걸
were
팔아야
in the
했어요.
mine, and they were
그런 과거가 우리에게 굉장히
inhaling
멀지 않고
the
저희
dust in the
어머니께서도
mine
제 프로그램을
because
보시고
they need to earn the
내가
money.
어릴 때 우리나라도
And
저랬는데
even my
라는
mom
말씀을 하시더라고요.
said that it was
그래서
just
저는
like Korea several
기후위기가
years ago. So
어떤 결말이
the climate
아니라
crisis
시작이
is
되어야
not the
한다고
end,
생각을
rather
합니다.
it should be the starting
우리가
point.
계속 이렇게 살 것인가?
We need to ask
계속
whether we
이렇게
will
가난한
continue
나라에
this
가장
business
취약한
as usual,
사람들을 착취하면서
or
살 것인가? 어느
we need to
날
ask
정말
whether we
영웅적인
will
기술이
just
나타나서
use
기후위기,
and take
기온이 더
advantage of
올라가지
these
않는 그런
people's
기술이
labor.
발견되었을 때
When we
그럼 우리
have
이제 기온 안
advanced
올라가니까
technology,
2020년대처럼 계속 살자 이렇게 해도 괜찮은 것일까?
we need to ask whether
화장실이
we
넘치도록
can
계속 사용을 하면서
live
물도
our
제대로 내리지
lifestyle,
않으면서 그 옆에 사는 이웃에게
and
더럽다고 냄새 난다고
can we
손가락질하면서 계속
point out
살아도
other
괜찮은
people
것일까?
saying that they
그건
are
아니지
stinky?
않을까 하는 생각으로
And it
제가
is
이
not
자리에
right.
나왔습니다.
That's why I'm here.
사람과 자연을 이런 식으로 짜내서 그걸 풍요라고 부르고
We are taking full
경제활동이라는
advantage of
이름으로
people
용인하고
and nature,
효율이라는 이름으로
and we
칭찬하는
call
우리가
and
다시
praise
생각해 봐야
them
되지
as
않을까라는
efficiency
그런
and
말씀을 드리고
economic power.
싶었습니다.
So I wanted to ask these questions to the
이거는 제가
audiences.
최근에 가장 최근이죠. 7월에 콩고
In July,
민주공화국에 출장을 가서
I went to
직접 찍은
Congo Republic
사진인데요.
and took this picture by
여기는
myself.
제가 정말 태어나서 갔던 곳 중에서 가장
And
공기가 안 좋은 곳이었어요.
It had the worst
근데
air quality.
보시는 이런 제품들 있죠. 스마트폰이나 뭐
As you can see,
아이폰,
we
이런
have many products
제품들에
like
꼭
smartphone
들어가는
and iPads.
코발트 광물을
And
생산하는
these products
곳이거든요.
use cobalt,
그래서
and
이곳은
cobalt
땅을 다
are
파헤치고 최저가로 만들기 위해서
mined here.
뭐
And
여기
for
분진이
the
하루 종일
optimization of the
날아다니다
mining,
보니까 눈앞을 볼 수가 없어요.
they
근데
need
이런
to
곳에서 마스크 없인 잠시도 서 있기가 힘들었는데
work continuously,
그런
and
곳에서
that's why it is
10살도 안
filled
된
with
아이들이
dust.
하루에 1달러를
And
받으면서
in that
눈이
situation,
빨갛게 충혈돼
these
가면서
young children less than
홈트를 피고 있습니다.
10 years old, they
이런
are
아이들의 아픔 그리고
shedding tear,
오염된
but they are
콩고
still working
민주공화국의
to
환경,
mine
이런 것들이
cobalt.
우리가 칭송하는 실리콘밸리의 혁신,
But
조만장자를
we
그런
praise
기술 발전들,
the technology
그런
developed in
것들에
Silicon Valley.
값에 포함이 되어 있는지
So we need to ask whether the value of this labor and the natural
지금까지 제가
environment
제작해온
are
지구는
included
없다
in
시리즈의
the
문제의식을
price
조금
of these
공유해드렸는데요.
gadgets.
제가 이
I
프로그램을
wanted to share
하는 한
the
가지
perception
믿음이
toward
하나
these
있어요.
problems, and there is
그거는
one
바로
consistent
누구나
rationale
좋아하는
for me.
누구나 원하는 보편적인 아름다움이 있다는 믿음이에요.
I always believe that there is a universal value of beauty.
여의도로 출근하는 그 시간을 굉장히 소중하게
When I commute
여기고요.
to my office, I
멀리
cherish
날씨가
that
좋으면
time.
광산이 보이고
When the air
채소도
is clean,
들리고
I can
아기들이
see
나무도
the mountain
있고
far
물이
away,
졸졸
and I
흘러가는
can
그
see the
시간을
clean
보내는 걸
stream,
좋아하거든요.
and I like to
그런데
listen to
세상에
the songs
푸른
of
하늘,
birds.
맑은 공기, 깨끗한
But
물,
blue
이런
sky
걸
and
싫어하는
clean
사람은
water,
한 명도 없다고
I
저는
believe
생각을
everyone
합니다.
like these
이런
natural
당연한
environment.
것들이 소수만이
We
함유할
take
수
this
있는
as
취향이
granted.
되질 않기를 바라고요.
However, I don't want
마찬가지로
these
건강이
natural
취향이 되어서는
environment
안
as a
되고
blessing for
깨끗한
only a few.
환경이 특권이 되어서는 안 됩니다.
This clean environment should not
그
be
말인즉슨 여의도 공원에 세우기
a
힘든
blessing for only several
소각장이면
people.
시골에서도 강행될 수 없는 것이고 뉴욕에서 허가가
In
날
New
수
York,
없는 오염산업의
if
등장은
we cannot give the
나이지리아에서도
permit
허가가
to
나서는
the
안 됩니다.
factory, then
돈으로
that
보상하지
factory should not be
않느냐는 그런
installed in
말들을 많이
Nigeria.
하지만
We say
뉴욕에서도
that
돈으로 살 수 없는
we can
사람의
compensate with
건강에는
money. However,
목숨의 값은 나이지리아에서도
we cannot
거래의 대상이 되어서는 안 됩니다.
give a value to the
그래서
life
제가
of
드리고 싶은
Nigerian
말씀은
people. So what I would
조금
like to
아파도
say
괜찮은
is
사람,
there
조금
is
더
no
빨리
one
죽어도 괜찮은
who
사람은 없습니다.
is
그리고
okay
물이
to be
원래
sick
습하고
or
공기가
who
더러운
is
마을도
okay
없고
to
그래도
die.
괜찮은 지구는 없습니다. 오늘 저를 초대해 주신 서울 디자인 어워드가
Today I was
이런
invited by Seoul
우리가
Design
모두
Award
믿는
Conference, and I
기본적인
hope
상식 그리고 보편적인
this
아름다움을
common
지지하는
sense
그런 자리가
and
되어가길
universal
바라며
beauty
제
can be
발표를
sustained
마치겠습니다.
by this conference. With
감사합니다.
this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
네, 첫 번째 발표 김가람 PD님의
Producer Karam Kim made the first presentation. The title was Nowhere You Are Allowed to Behave Carelessly on Earth. And I believe the series will be continued. Before we designed the coexistence, we need to have this perception. We need to understand that there are problems and these problems are not far away from us. And we are also responsible for these problems. That is the beginning. And then we can understand what we can do together. And our curiosity will be addressed through the Q&A session. And let me move on to the next presenter.
Mr. Alberto Nanclares da Vega, founder of Busrama, is joining us today. He will talk about waste curators, people who love waste. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon there. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invite. We are very happy about the Human City Design project and award from Seoul. We're also very keen on Korea and its culture, so thank you. We are very happy to be here. For us, it's a good, very good presentation, the one before the one, I mean, the one we have just seen, because it's really related to what I'm trying to explain today, very much related to it. We are Basurama, an Spanish artist collective who have been working with waste for more than 20 years now. And we must say that after 20 years of activism and ecologism and ecology in art, our work has failed, definitely. Because people know somehow that landfills do not exist. We have seen photos of landfills now, but nobody actually thinks they are real. Everybody thinks like, I don't know, they are something like fictional. The landfills we have been taking pictures of around the world, this is Spain, Tire landfill, or the ones we have just seen in the presentation, previous to mine, are definitely real, but people do not believe in them somehow. And people do not believe in pollution either. Otherwise they would stop using cars, and everybody's using cars, including me. We have seen photos like this one, that was Beijing, and the picture was published or made viral around the world, saying that the fog in Beijing forced people to broadcast the sunrise. But this is not the sunrise broadcasted in a Beijing square, but a commercial of Shandong, the region in China. Or climate change. Many people claim is fake news, definitely. And the debate around climate change makes somehow the climate change not real. We have seen this photo many times of a starving polar bear, and they said like, oh, it's not a starving polar bear, it's simply a regular skinny polar bear that didn't have a very good winter, nothing else. It's very difficult to fight with the climate change deniers, climate change promoters who defend that it's fake news. But actually we cannot picture anymore of how the world is going to end, because we have gone through COVID-19 pandemics, and that hasn't killed us, or at least it hasn't killed all of us. So people say, like, apocalypse, the way ecologism puts it, might be fictional. It's not gonna happen, Yeah, they say, like, all right, yeah, we're destroying the planet. There is no planet B. We cannot keep on going this way, but we keep going this way. Changes are not happening, or are not happening as fast as we need them to happen. So what we have been doing the last 20 years is, showing, visualizing the fact that waste and consumption is the same. I mean, going to the supermarket and the landfill management belt, conveyor belt, are basically the same idea. We only buy waste before it goes to the landfill, making landfills bigger. How can we stop this trend? How can we stop these ways of life that actually create and buy and promote the creation of waste? If our goal is to stop waste creation, and our goal is actually changing the ways of life, changing the way we live, we must somehow go forward, stay away from images, stay away from creating images that people will see and somehow react to them. Like, this is a campaign we made for the Spanish government back in 2008 that said, everything you buy is thrown away somehow. And people said, like, all right, I know that happens. Consumption and waste is the same change of production, is the same way of life. But that was 2008, 15 years ago. Nothing has changed. No politics, very small changes in consumption. We have also showed off the waste that the music festivals create. Music festivals are super big landfills with music on. And we put all the waste the music festival creates in the beach where it happened. And actually this change happened. The music festival stopped giving discarded, disposable glasses, disposable cups for the beer. And now all cups used in the festival are to be give back to the festival once you are off, which actually reduced much the waste created in festivals. That's good. That's a good change that happened. But actually, we think images, ecological art images or documentaries are useless. Can we do something else? Can we do something else to move forward and change our way of life? Could we create spaces? We have been creating spaces around the world using waste. Many places in Santo Domingo, in Dominican Republic. Or can we create experiences that people can actually experience another way of life? Can we actually tell them, you can live all the way around, reusing waste, you don't have to buy anything new for the next, for the next 20 years, you don't have to buy anything new. This is a playground we created in Lima, in Peru, that was actually quite successful among many people, and it has been really popular. And we were invited by the city of São Paulo in Brazil to create like a super large swings installation for the summer of 2013, and I was there for the whole summer. It was very nice. Or we created with these neighbors of a newly built city in Madrid that was left abandoned after the housing bubble exploded. We told them, how can we be creating a society and not only creating a city? We did this like planting in this leftover, in this super huge empty land. We created with them a sunflower plantation that was very, very good, very beautiful, self-managed by them. Can we create prototypes for possible ways of life, design and building? Stay away from trying to convince people, but actually create new ways of life. We have been creating places like this, reusing waste and actually reusing somehow abandoned spaces or left spaces or empty spaces. This is a city, a neighborhood in Madrid, which is called San Cristóbal de los Ángeles, that we rebuilt with them a space for youngsters, for the youth around. All throughout 7 years working, we rebuilt the whole thing using our hands and self-managing the space, or creating prototypes for new kindergartens in Taipei, reusing water deposits. Those were created with the parents of the kids in the kindergarten, telling them you can actually have a better life reusing waste than buying new plastic catalog playgrounds for your kids. And kids have a lot of fun, indeed. We have been working with Kids Match because actually they can somehow reinvent the world. We must put them the possibility and chances of reusing and proposing new ways of life. This is another playground we created in Taipei, reusing lamp posts. It's still there, the playground, and it's really beautiful. Or we were created lampposts playgrounds with kids in Brazil using their own hands. We have been reusing many structures and old materials around the world, like in Guinea, in Equatorial Guinea, cultural center in Equatorial Guinea, where kids get together to study there because there is no room enough in their homes or in their local libraries. So what we did was we simply recreating or restructuring a building that was left abandoned there and creating a studying space for them. Actually, that was created with them and a few welders, nothing much, but some welding, and the traditional roofing that they created. And of course, another structure for playing, because if you have kids and you want to study, you must put them in a place. You need them to be playing while you study. The last break I'm gonna explain is this. We created from fallen trees from a snowstorm that was absolutely historical and impossible to understand in Madrid, where it doesn't snow that much for the last 100 years, which is a very symbolic moment of climate change. What is doing such a snowstorm in Madrid? There's something really strange. But people was really amused and happy about it, because it was really a fantastic few days of the city covered in snow. So with the fallen trees, we thought we will propose many people to reuse them in order to create playgrounds. So we created this proposal of reusing all those fallen trees into playgrounds. And we saw kids playing with them, having fun with them, creating spaces and plays and toys with them. And actually, we promoted that people put together all the fallen trees and create playgrounds, and that's what people did. Not only directed by us, but with their own intentions and means, they created playgrounds for their schools, for the kids, for the playgrounds, reusing those fallen trees, and very beautiful playgrounds, like these ones created by students, teachers, people from below, people from the neighborhoods, not directed by us, but following our directions of reuse the abundance we have, like, for example, fallen trees, or the amount of waste we have. Think about it as a huge possibility. All the waste we have created, not buying anything else, but reusing the materials we have and rebuilding the world out of those that actually are available now. Thank you.
Thank you for the stories you shared. 방금 우리 바수라마 알베르토 대표님의
Just
다양한
Mr.
이야기들을 들었는데요.
Alberto shared his story, and sometimes we think that these materials are waste, but when we add care, that waste can turn into the resource. So our attention and care can make something waste, or we can turn it into new opportunity. So this is a very vivid example, and we will move on to the third presenter.
The third presenter is Mr. Lee Hwan-hee, representative of Paw in Hand, which is an abandoned animal adoption platform.
We have a small technical difficulties with the microphone, so let us just begin again. And then, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Hwan-hee Lee for his presentation.
So hello, my name is Hwan-hee Lee, and I'm a veterinarian And people might probably imagine vets to just be people who treat animals. And I've actually trained for a long time to become a vet myself. And yes, I'm a vet today. But in 2013, I became the manager of an animal shelter. And that's when my life changed. And that led me to create an app for abandoned animal adoption and also to create a social enterprise for animal adoption. So I'd like to share my personal story with you today. So when I was working as a manager at an animal shelter, I met a small Pomeranian. It was old, but it was very affectionate. It loved people. So this Pomeranian was so precious that I took care of it. And I thought that the Pomeranian would eventually meet a family for life, but 15 days have passed and no one showed up. And when we cannot find families for these abandoned animals, animal shelters usually euthanize them. So I took this dog out of the cage for euthanasia. And until the very last moment, he wagged his tails for me. Putting animals to sleep made me guilty. And only just after few seconds that I injected the chemical into the dog, it passed away. And that's when I became devastated. So many people are raising animals, which means that there is also a large number of animals that are abandoned and come to animal shelters. And unfortunately, more than half of them do not meet families for life, but they die of natural causes or they are put to sleep, as I told you earlier. For 3 years while working at the shelter, I was gravely pained by what I saw and experienced as a vet and a manager, and therefore that led me to develop an app for animal adoption. So after I worked as a vet during the day, I would go back home at night and I would Google and do research on various information to create an app. And I met many volunteers to receive their opinions, and we developed many functions working with the UI and UX and so on for the map. Now, the name Paw in Hand actually means that the paws of the animals and the hands of the people could meet in order to become families. So that's the kind of goal that I have for the service. And while I was developing the service, even my close friends asked me, why are you doing something that is not going to generate a lot of profit? And who's ever going to use this app? So there were some critical remarks, but I actually didn't have a big dream in mind when I created this service app. I just wanted even just one life to be saved through this app. And the reason why I was motivated to create this app is because I know how important a life of an animal is. And I realized that while I was working at the shelter, and as time passed, many people began to adopt animals through the app. And a school actually adopted an abandoned dog through the app for the classroom as a classroom pet. Paw in Hand is creating changes in society. And Paw in Hand's cases began to spread through various networks and news media outlets and so on. And after about 3 years that I created app, without any kind of promotions, Paw in Hand app achieved a cumulative download of 100,000. But once again, I ran into a challenge because people actually have a stereotype. People have a negative connotation about adopting animals. They would assume that the animals who are abandoned are sick and that they have some other problems. Is that really true? That's when I came across the story of this dog. So this is actually the picture of a dog that was uploaded into an official website of a local animal shelter. But you would think that with this picture, who's going to ever adopt a dog? But anyway, someone did sign up for adoption. And they say that the first thing that they wanted to do with this dog was to shave its fur. But it wasn't easy because the furs were crumpled together and were so solid. So the process was very difficult. And after 2 hours, we were finally able to shave off the fur, and the dog was adopted into a wonderful woman. And this is the same dog. It's not an abandoned dog anymore, but it's given the name Hari, and it's a family member of a wonderful family. And I believe that the stereotype that people have against the adoption of abandoned animals is like that fur that was covering this dog. Once you shave off the fur, you really be able to see what's inside. And this woman who adopted this dog actually became a model. Not only her, but also her pet dog became models for Toyota. And not just creating an app. Creating an app is not enough, but actually creating a culture of adopting animals is very important. So that became our social mission. And therefore, in 2018, I created a social venture. And so, in addition to the app, we created the Fellow Animal Hospital program, and we also published magazines and also conducted various campaigns. And after creating that social venture, we've been engaged in a lot of activities which do not generate profit. So we would have photo exhibitions for these abandoned animals, as well as classes and so on. So we really wanted to spread the culture of adopting animals. We conducted an exhibition together with IKEA. And this exhibition featured photos of dogs that look very happy, and these dogs have actually been adopted through paw in hand. And we hoped that people would change their perception of adopting abandoned animals through these pictures. And their perceptions are actually really changing. And Paw in Hand has become #1 companion animal platform in Korea. 90% of animal adoption in Korea is being done through Paw in Hand. And next year marks our 10th anniversary. And we want to make this very significant. And what we thought about is to create a Paw in Hand lounge offline. And at this lounge, we would conduct education sessions on how animals can change before and after adoption, and other related programs can be carried out here as well. So once again, I did not have a big goal in mind when I created this app. I just wanted even just one animal to benefit from the app. But thankfully enough, every year, 10,000 dogs are adopted through the app. And I know that many businesses are concerned about sustainability these days. And you might think that sustainability is just related to how we eat and live. But the lesson that I learned and the insight that I learned for the past 10 years is that not just animals and environment, only when they become the goal of our sustainability and not means, will we be able to achieve true sustainability. That could be a strong asset for your brand. And we will uphold this belief going forward. And I hope that people who wish to start their own businesses going forward will be able to see our environment not as a means but an end goal for their business. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. You said that every year 10,000 animals are adopted through Paw in Hand. Thank you for sharing your insight with us based on your experience. So we listened to the presentations of 3 speakers today, and maybe you found some commonalities of these speakers. They have different perspectives. They are engaged in different fields. They have different views, but they are social innovators and social designers. From their respective areas, they conduct designs in order to create a sustainable world. And our support is with them all the way. And I would like to ask them 3 questions today. And I would like to give you 1 minute each to answer the question. First, Ms. Kim, and then next, Alberto, and next, Mr. Lee.
When you begin your activity, you design these, and what was the hypothesis, and what was your belief? I believe you had the initial belief. However, while working on your projects, I believe your belief can be changed. So, did you change your belief or did you change your hypothesis? Please give your answer within 1 minute. Please, Ms. Kim. When I started on the environment special, I focused on the recycling and how I can throw away the trash in a good way. But as Mr. Alberto said, I changed my perception because when I create something that can turn into trash, so recycling and upcycling and throwing away the trash is important, but what is more important is creating less trash. It is difficult to put into action in the capitalism society. So if we create many products, we cannot be sustainable. That's what I thought. Thank you very much for the summary. You first started activities how we can throw the trash away in a good way. However, over time, you asked the question, the fundamental question, whether we are creating too many trash. And Mr. Alberto was the inspiration as well, so I would like to know your idea as well.
Sorry, sir, you're on mute. We cannot hear you.
Hello, sorry, I was mute. Our idea when we founded Basurama back in 2001 is we can reduce the waste production via creative reusing. That is, if we understand how can we reuse waste, we will stop creating waste. 20 years later, nothing of that has happened. Waste is bigger than 20 years ago. So we started thinking we must somehow call to an action of stop consuming at all. Do not buy anything new, whatever. That is, try to use only what we have now. Like, let's call to a halt of production. And now we are there, like how to invent institutions, and that's 1 minute. Sorry. Let's invent institutions, design schools, means of work, and prototypes so we can only use waste from now on, not new raw materials.
Thank you very much for that comment. So when we produce something, waste is already there. And from the very beginning, when a clothes is made, for example, we know how much waste that is going to produce. So there's something that we really need to focus on from the production side. Mr. Lee? So when I first created Paw in Hand, I really wanted people to know that there is a many number of animals that are adopted, and that will naturally lead to people who actually adopt those animals. And that was true to some extent, but we actually faced a setback in the middle of it. People no longer actively adopted animals. But here in Korea, usually pets are bought in stores, and people prefer young animals, baby dogs, and certain species of dogs, and so on. And so those were the biggest hurdles that we faced. So in the middle of the business, to raise and change people's awareness, we kept changing our business model, and that's what we're doing still today. I see. So I heard this story that the attitude that a society shows towards those who are the most vulnerable shows how dignified that society is. So we must try to see how Korea behaves and what kind of attitude Korea shows to these animals who are one one of the most vulnerable of the society. Now, next question.
When you begin your project, what was the message you want to give or deliver to the society or friends or your family members? And while doing your project, what do you want to address the questions? And what kind of answer do you want to give to those questions? So we'll first turn to Mr. Lee, then Alberto, and Ms. Kim.
So this is a really difficult question for me, by the way. So many people ask me the question, what should we do in order to resolve the issue of abandoned animals? And if you are raising a companion animal, you would have to take care of that animal until it dies so as to resolve the abandonment issue. And if you are to adopt an animal, you have to do your research in advance to really know what adoption involves. But unfortunately, many people here in Korea do not take care of the animal until its death. As a matter of fact, only 18% of the people who raise animals take care of them until their lives end. Usually they would abandon any animals or they would send them to their friends' homes or other people's homes. But we do not know the accurate reason behind that, of course. But what I want to say is that in order to resolve the problem of abandonment of animals, just take care of the animal until the day it dies. So people feel happiness and excitement when they first adopt animals. But they need to be able to feel that until the day the animal dies. And they need to really think about taking care of the animal for life. I see. Ms. Kim?
So I didn't make the program from the beginning with a special message, but while making the program, I thought this. Until now, we freely purchased the products. We earn money and we purchase the products we want, and we also have the freedom to throw away. So this was one of the big pillars for our life. But that is not the only freedom we enjoy. We need to think how we will live, and we should not be swayed away by the advertisement or influencers. And we need to think how we can hand over the earth to our next generation. That's what I thought. And you also asked a question, what kind of question I wanted to get. I didn't thought about that, but on YouTube, I can see many comments. We send many used clothes to other countries, and some people say that we need to create the incinerator in our country, but it is not an easy option unless you will create the incinerator in front of your yard. So we have the freedom to consume, but we have the freedom to not to consume. So in the future, I hope we can see so many documentaries. And we'll now turn to Mr. Alberto.
Yeah, well, our message from the beginning and now on, that hasn't changed, even if we failed in our goal, in our original goal, is living an ecological life, living a caretaker life, living a caring life, living a non-consumption life, makes you happier. It's not a question of somehow making more restrictions to our everyday lives, because nobody's going to embrace restrictions, nobody wants to say no to anything, but celebrating and enjoying new ways of life, having better playgrounds, riding a bike, having better products and better designs, makes you happier than the life we have now. And that includes creative reusing or upcycling, because knowing how to repair your car or repair your stuff makes you happier, gives you more power, and makes you more clever somehow. So that is our message all the time. Living a better life, taking care more of the environment, makes you happier. It's not a question of being more restrictive, but being happier.
네, 계속 일맥상통하는 메시지가
I believe
나오네요.
we have a
잘
coherent
목표하고
message. We
목표할
need to
때
look
그보다
around and
행복할 수 있다라는
care
말씀해 주신 것
for
같습니다.
other
자,
people.
마지막
Then we
질문인데요.
can take care
청소년,
of their
청년,
lives.
이런 쪽으로
Next
노력을
question.
하시고 헌신하고
Now,
계시는
there
분들이
are
있어서
probably young
저도
people
이런 동일한 길을 가고
out there
싶습니다라고 물어본다면
who want
어떤
to
조언을
walk on the
해주실지
same path
짤막하게
as you.
부탁드립니다.
One word of
우리
advice to
김결한
those
PD님,
young
알베르토
people.
이완희 대표님
Miss
모시겠습니다.
Kim, Alberto, and then Mr. Lee.
그 알베르토님 답변을 이어서 저도
Let me continue the answer on the same line with Mr. Alberto. We want to create the application or program for the environment. It is not that difficult. We are not
좀더 사려 깊게 소비를 하고
stopping the consumption entirely.
필요하지 않은 정보들을 갖지 않는 대신에 더
Instead of
정보에서
consuming
반려동물 들이듯이
the things we don't want, rather we can
훨씬 풍족해졌다는 그런 생각을 했어요.
enjoy the life with the things we have, and that can enrich our life. So
뭐 산이나 절로 들어가는 걸로 생각하지 말고
we are not becoming a monk, rather we are living together with other people and we think about people. So this is a large process, and I met many people and they have different backgrounds. One of them graduated Harvard University, and that person studied the mountains of clothes, and one lawyer in Washington worked in Congo and filed a lawsuit.
그런 장벽을 두지 않았으면 좋겠어요.
So I
얼마든지
hope that all the people do not put the restriction to themselves, and I hope everyone has hope. Thank you.
Mr. Alberto? I'm sorry, you are on mute.
There. Yeah, well, I would not give any piece of advice to youngsters at all. I teach in architecture school to people who are 18, 20 years old, and I always tell them, please show us the way, lead us out of the situation where we are now. Because I do believe that youngsters and people starting companies, businesses, ideas, NGOs are somehow more innovative than we were, because they see the world in another way that we used to saw it. They were born in a world where actually climate change was a reality and was everywhere, and they know about it a lot. And the thing is that they are trying to change everything. That includes transhumanism, post-humanism, new gender-related freedom, new sexual freedom, which includes all the changes we must accomplish to change the environment. And I always tell them, show me the way, tell me what you're doing, and I will do it with you. That's the only thing I can say to them.
Thank you, 알베르토. 유한희 대표님 마지막 말씀 들어보겠습니다.
Mr. Lee?
저는 청소년들한테 서두르지 말라.
To the youth, I want to tell them, do not hurry.
하는 게 좀 조심스럽지만
I'm speaking very cautiously here, but I believe that expertise and genuineness is very important in business. That shows a clear direction for business, I believe. And genuineness actually provides the power for you to pursue the right direction in a consistent manner. So without expertise, without genuineness, you will give up. So I wish that the young people will not hurry, but take enough time to gain the right level of expertise and also take time to find what their passion is. So thank you very much. So how many plastic did it take to make a clothes? There was an article that was written in that title, and that actually gives us a lot of food for thought. And when you go into a coffee shop, you see that some people saying that, hey, I want my coffee to be in a cup that can be used multiple times. Today, that concept is not so widespread, but I'm sure that going forward with people like you, we will be able to see that concept being spread across the world. Thank you so much to our three speakers, Alberto, for joining us from afar, and that concludes this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Design is probably what we see first, but then there are so many elements of design that can be applied literally anywhere in any field, just like the social designers here. For sure, there's no way we'd live well all on our own. And this was a session that made me think how we can live well together as we are connected through, of course, through design. I'd like to thank the panelists for their kind words and Representative Chung Tae Kim for outstanding performance as a moderator. At this conference, with the theme of changing daily lives and people who make changes through design, we've covered the problems in our daily lives and discussed creative and valuable solutions. Caring design starts to exert good influence, actionable design, changes we make, and coexisting design, sustainable world that we talked about throughout this conference is what Seoul Design Award aims for. And we'd like to carefully capture creative design projects in the world that resonate with these three precious messages. Now, it is finally time to announce the launch of Seoul Design Award 2023 for Sustainable Daily Life. Before the announcement of the award, we have prepared a video to help you understand the purpose of the award. So let's check out the Seoul Design Award 2023 for a Sustainable Daily Life that aims a harmonious relationship between people, society, and environment.
Rapidly changing world. More rapidly approaching future. Values that the public is pursuing. What they should be. They are what we, different people, are creating together. Design for people, for society, and for nature and environment. What is all about changing our daily lives? That is design. In the area of sharing public, through creativity and innovation, participation and cooperation, inspiration and influence. It is the power of design that makes changes to achieve sustainability in our daily lives. Product, service, visual, digital, space, environment, and as we can realize our dream if we dream together, you and I, we all have to make our future together. Seoul Design Award for Sustainable Daily Life.
So now, what would be the content of this award with this purpose? Next, Mr. Kyung-Don Ri, the CEO of Seoul Design Foundation, the organizer of Seoul Design Awards, will brief us on Seoul Design Award 2023.
Many problems we are faced in our daily lives are not the problems related to a particular city such as Seoul, but issues that are common across the world. Efforts to ensure that no one is left behind on this journey towards an alternative future is not the burden of Seoul alone, but a path we must walk together by sharing our success stories with a wider global audience. This is the rationale behind the Global Design Award, and reason we want to advance one step further. First, for the award to leap forward on a global scale, the number of international advisory board members and judges have been greatly expanded. We will make the awards a truly global phenomenon with the help of experts from diverse fields and with more countries represented from all 6 continents. Starting with this year's awards, we are proud to welcome advisors, judges, and we are also enjoying the strong support from our partner cities and organizations. Second, the number of award categories have been expanded to open up opportunities for more people to participate. Our award now represents all areas of design, including service design, digital design, product design, and visual design, as well as spatial design. We hope to become a platform that encourages the curation of more examples of design as creative convergence solutions to transform everyday life. Third, the name of the award was updated to Seoul Design Award for Sustainable Daily Living to encompass a wider range of creative value for a sustainable future while still preserving the purpose and value of the existing award that has garnered much attention from people around the world. The Human City Design Award has now evolved into the Seoul Design Award for Sustainable Daily Living. In a manner akin to a platform used to share success stories with the world at large scale and seek out the future direction together, the Seoul Design Award will continue to evolve.
Indeed, with the expansion of the award categories with a very wide range of design fields being covered, it seems like it's going to be an exciting opportunity for all the designers around the world. I look very much forward to seeing all of your participation. Next are some of the very distinguished officials whom I would like to introduce as the advisory and jury members who will lead the Seoul Design Award 2023 from all over the world. So when your name is being called, please say hello and wave at the screen with your hands. First, we'll introduce our 13 advisors for next year's award, and here they are. We'll start with Jo Frang. Yes, please say hello on the screen. Thank you. Next, Andrea Cancelato. This time, Mark Wee. Thank you. And Eriko Esaka. Fernando Mascaro. Sertouch Airsign. Thank you. And unfortunately, some of our advisors could not join us today. So here we'll introduce their names. First, we'll start with Richard Perez, Anya Sirota, Yuka Sabulainen, Kon Na, Hyunsun Kim, Tuva Kozartiruk, and Kim Sang-gyun. Thank you. And this time, we'd like to introduce our 15 jury members for Seoul Design Award 2023. And when I call your name, again, please wave your hands on the screen. First, we'll start with Dontae Lee. Thank you. Dominic Siangma. Sarah Davis. Ahmad Prakashi. Kompyo Lee. Ezio Manzini. Thank you, who also showed us a great keynote this afternoon. And this time, Kazuo Tanaka. Paolo Vergomi. Hishang Lalu. Also, among our jury members, there are some who could not join us here today, so let me just call their names first, and we'll start with Kyung-Hae Han, Patricia Moore, Susan Cotter, Mariana Amatolo, Lu Xiaobo, and Birgit Lohmann. And finally, we'd like to welcome Kompyo Lee. Thank you. And there's so many of people here working together. Even I feel so reassured. Once again, we'd like to express our gratitude to everyone who has joined us here today. Now, lastly, there's a video that congratulates the Seoul Design Award for its powerful Live Forward as a sign of a promise to be together for our future. UNESCO creative cities and advisories and jury members from all around the world sent us videos of their messages in advance. So let's watch a video together where everyone pledges the following. We'll create a sustainable future together. In international sign language, with a bracelet of a Korean traditional knot, which means to unite into one heart.
안녕하세요. 음악창의 도시 대구입니다.
Konnichiwa, GK デザインの田中和夫です。
Ciao, Chiara.
Hello, my name is Mariana Matullo.
Ciao, sono Andrea Cancellato.
Hello, my name is Suzanne Cotter.
Buongiorno.
Konnichiwa.
Hello.
Konnichiwa.
That was very overwhelming. I know all of you are watching it from online, but wherever you are, please give a big round of applause for those amazing video clip. And many thanks to everyone who participated. And this concludes the whole conference and announcement ceremony. But currently, the projects of the Seoul Design Award are on display at DSUP and DDP. That is Dongdaemun Design Plaza. So if you have time, please take your time and take a visit at this tremendous display here at DDP. And we thank you in advance for your interest in a new leap forward for the Seoul Design Award. And this has been Ki Kim, and I look forward to seeing you again for Seoul Design Award 2023. Thank you.